Welcome to the Real Estate Diplomat and Inside the Skev. I'm your host, Aaron Maslansky. Today, I am bringing you a combined episode because we're talking about the real estate market at the beginning of 2023. It's February of 2023, and I have three experts to tell you about what's going on in the Chicagoland area specifically and overall in the United States with real estate. The experts I have on are Jennifer LaMell Goldstone. She's an attorney with Horwitch, Goldstone Shaw, based in Northbrook, Illinois. She represents a lot of my clients. We work together, and she protects them in terms of all the legal work that takes place on closings here in the Chicagoland area for purchases and sales. I also have Deanne Cooper, who's from Fidelity National Title. We talk about title insurance, how they protect people from any kinds of scams or things like that, and make sure you get clean title when you buy property. And I have Beth Lewis from CrossCountry Mortgage. Beth is a superstar mortgage expert here in the Chicagoland area. She's licensed to lend across the United States, and we talk about interest rates and how that's affecting real estate here. So it is a great episode. I think it's important for both. For those fans of the Real Estate Diplomat, if you want to know about Skokie and Evanston, Illinois, well, check out skevinson.com. And for those in Skokie and Evanston who like to listen to Inside the Skev, you can always check out therealestatediplomat.com. That's my show all about global real estate with a geopolitical perspective. So really interesting, and I think you're going to learn a lot. Before we start the show, let's talk about something you may be thinking about. Do you think about living and working remotely or about retiring to a distant paradise? Have you ever thought about buying real estate around the world? If so, did you know that I am a certified international property specialist and resort and second home property specialist? I have access to an exceptional network of real estate professionals around the world that I can refer you to who will help you safely buy and sell global real estate. And if you live in the Chicagoland area, I can help you with your real estate needs directly. Head over to therealestatediplomat.com to schedule a free consultation so I can learn more about what you are looking for and direct you to your dreams. Now, let's start the show. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And today we are going to be talking about the real estate market here in the Chicagoland area, and also specifically Skokie and Evanston, everywhere around here. But I have three experts here to talk about what's going on in the market. And I introduced everybody before we started here on the show, but we're going to talk about what it means with the law, what it means with title insurance, and what's going on in the lending world, because everyone's been talking about interest rates. So I've got probably the three best people to talk about that here in the Chicagoland area and maybe the entire world. But just before we begin, I want to introduce everybody in terms of how you all got into this business. So Jennifer, how did you become an attorney? What got you in this line of work?
So when I graduated college, I was looking for my first job, and I had a connection to someone that worked in human resources at a very large law firm called Catton. And they were hiring at that time paralegals without paralegal certificates if you had a 4-year college degree. And they hired me out of college, and I worked as a paralegal for them for 2 years and realized I think I can go to law school. And I was a real estate paralegal, so I have always done different things in real estate. And I went to law school, focused on real estate.
Did you have anyone else in your family who was in real estate or law before that got you interested in that?
My grandfather was a real estate lawyer and investor, and my father an investor in real estate my whole life. So I've always been gravitated toward those concepts.
Did they encourage you to get into the business?
Not really, but they were supportive when I told them I wanted to do these things.
Sure.
But it was just one of those things that you know in the back of your mind, and you have a comfort level because I will find it interesting to see how my kids, what they enter into because of the same thing.
And Deanne, you're in title insurance, but is that where you started? Like, how did you land in this field?
I have a similar background to Jennifer. I started after college as a paralegal, and then I went to Roosevelt and went through the paralegal program there because I wanted to go to law school. And then I decided to get married and took a little bit of a break to that and started working at a lender. And I loved the lender, working with the lender, but I was intrigued by the title side. So I got to be friends with people at Chicago Title and asked if I could maybe move over there and get a job there. And I guess the rest is history because it's always something new and different there.
Yeah, I imagine. And people like, and we'll talk about this, like what title insurance is, because to the layman, nobody really knows what's the purpose or what happens. You just go to a title company office, but I imagine it's no day is the same, right?
No day is the same. No file is the same. There's always something different, whether or not it's on the loan side, what they might be dealing with, or if it's on the title side, it's always, or the house, a walkthrough issue, it's always something different.
Yeah. And Beth, you've been a lender for a few
Too many
years. And you're really well known around Skokie and Evanston with the realtor community and a lot of different clients around here. How did you get into this business?
It's not as exciting as Deanne's story. I answered an ad. I didn't know much about lending. Met with Crown Mortgage, which is where I started, and talked to the loan officers there and thought, okay, I can do this.
Yeah. And you started at Crown Mortgage and you did that. And has the business changed a little bit since you started?
It has changed a lot and hasn't changed at all.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? The nice part about this business is every deal is a little bit different because you're dealing with people. And when you're dealing with people, it's a very important part in someone's life, and there's emotions and excitement and a big milestone for many people. So it's really nice to be involved in that part of a person's life when they're doing something really cool and neat for themselves.
Oh, absolutely. It's huge. And a lot of people in the past years have used different online platforms where you're not really having that personal relationship with the lender. And as a realtor, I can see the difference hugely as when you step into to save a deal. We've had that how many times?
Many times.
Many times. And it's because you're personally shepherding the deal together and calming the nerves of the clients. So I think that's like something like you're saying, it changes, but it's still the same.
Yes.
Yeah. So so we know a little bit about your backgrounds now. And I think that I want to be able to educate the public on is what do you all actually do? Because some states are a little bit different where you don't necessarily have a real estate attorney. If you're outside the United States, you may not even have formal laws about real estate, and your risk might be higher because of that. But here in the Chicagoland area, we have real estate attorneys that represent both the buyers and the sellers. So it's a little bit different than some other places, and I think gives you a lot more protection. Jennifer, how do you help a client, either a buyer or a seller?
What's unique about Chicago, and there's only a handful of jurisdictions that do it this way, is that you do have real estate attorney counsel. So you have representation as a buyer or representation as a seller in addition to your realtor. And the things we do on each side are a little bit different. For purchases, we review the contract. We go over inspection items that come up during their inspection. We make sure that we're strategizing on how we're going to present any issues related to the contract or inspection to the seller. I believe it's a team effort. So I want my realtors to help me through that process. They're my eyes and ears. They're the ones that are physically at the property. I'm looking at the paperwork. So we prepare a letter and we deal with the attorney review process and we negotiate changing some terms of the contract that may be more favorable to this particular deal or this particular buyer, as well as any inspection concerns. Once that part is done, the second phase is really all about Beth. It's really about getting mortgage approval. And I monitor the dates in the contract and I'll email Beth and say, hey, are we in good shape on this one? Do I need more time? Where are we? What are our conditions? And we'll work together to make sure we're protecting that buyer. And then the third phase, once we have that final unconditional commitment letter from Beth's office, is going to the title company. And at the closing, we go through all of the loan documents, but more importantly, from my perspective, is we go through the transfer documents. We're making sure that title is transferring properly, that there are no encumbrances or liens or encroachments on title. And we're making sure that all the numbers line up with respect to what we agreed to in the contract phase. And that's how we deal with it on the buy side.
And then for the title company, some people, when I'm talking with clients, are like, what is a title company?
First, we deal with what Jennifer or Beth might send our way to get the figures in line so we can get a appropriate closing statement that Jennifer and the opposing counsel would agree with the numbers there. And then so that's done behind the scenes before the people come to the closing table. When they come to the closing table, these days things have changed. So sellers' attorneys, maybe 50, maybe even 60% of the time don't come. We do everything remotely ahead of time and get it done. But at that point, the closer facilitates everything, making sure the documents are signed correctly, whether they're supposed to be a middle initial, their ID matches, their signature matches their ID. And then they also check the title. You had touched on title insurance. We need to make sure that all the liens, which Jennifer was talking about, are clear, that the seller's attorney, even though they said that they're supposed to bring this to closing, that it actually shows up at closing so we can prepare a good title policy for the owner's policy for the buyer's attorney.
And what is a lien?
A lien is something that is on their title report. So say you didn't pay the person that painted your walls and they decide that they're going to go against the property because it is the house.
Yeah.
So they file a lien against the property, like a mechanic's lien against the property.
So let's say it's $10,000. So they basically have an ownership interest of $10,000 on that property. Is that what you would?
We usually, would get somehow, usually when we have attorneys like Jennifer, it's done ahead of time. We have a payoff letter and it's all cleared, or it's been cleared another way. But on occasion, very rare occasion, but on occasion, it does show up at the closing table. Yes, we need to make sure that it's paid off, and we need a letter, and then we'll need a release as well to show.
The other comment to that is that the reason sometimes we don't know about it in advance is because the title company does a search initially when they make the order, and then they research or search again, I should say, the records and the affidavits and the personal information, and make sure that there's nothing that's happened from when they first did their search to right before closing. And sometimes things pop up during that time that we have to deal with. And then the seller's attorney would work with the title company to make sure that's cleared.
And then if something were to happen after closing and something shows up, that's what the title insurance policy is for. So like you can make a claim on that in case something, and that's why you do all those searches, to make sure that there is nothing. But if something that was untraceable comes up, that's where you step in.
Well,
right?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I know where you're going with it, but I just want to make sure, because if it comes after the closing, then no. But in terms of prior to the closing, yes, that's when title insurance comes in, and the title agent, obviously, say a title agent missed it, you're 100% correct, then that's where the title insurance covers the borrower.
And also covers the loan as well. So if
Correct.
something happens, then the loan is protected and the lender itself.
Well, the lender, it's protecting priority. It's not protecting the lender. It's protecting priority that they are first lien on the property.
Okay.
With the owner's policy, you're dealing with all the things Deanne is talking about. So it's a little bit different. I always explain title insurance this way to clients. Title insurance it's a little bit different than the way you think of insurance. You get hazard insurance or automobile insurance. You drive out of this meeting today and you get in a car accident. You're protected against a future risk.
Mm-hmm.
Title insurance works backwards.
Yeah.
It says from the beginning of time to today, this is what the record looks like, and we're going to protect you from today going backwards in time. So conceptually, it's a little bit different, and it's hard for people to get that concept around, and that's for the owner's policy.
Yes.
For the loan policy, it's really about priority. The lender wants to know they're first in line to get paid.
Yep. And then it's a little bit different because there's a whole nother part of the industry for construction loans. So I used to work for a developer, and once a month we'd have to pay the general contractor, and you go through and you get lien waivers, and you have to review all the documents to make sure that the work that they say took place actually took place, and you're paying for that. Right. And then you have it recorded that they are not going to have that lien based still on the property. And that's a huge deal. And I'm sure that's a huge part of your business.
Yeah. We have a separate huge department, a construction department. Ours for the area that I'm in is based out of Schaumburg. So it's a really good team there that takes care of everything.
Yeah.
But if you want to know one of the challenges about title insurance, and people say to me all the time, how easy could that be if they're protecting you against risks that already occurred? And mechanics liens, as you're mentioning, is one of the pitfalls.
Yes.
Right. And that could be big.
It could be big. If it's on there ahead of time and you're dealing with, a lot of times like the processors, like Beth's processor, for instance, will get that cleared up at the same time that her office could be working on it if she's on the buy side. So you do have, which is nice, but it's not always that nice. It's like Jennifer said, sometimes it doesn't show up till later, but
right.
on a good scenario.
Yeah, that's key. And I'm sure you guys have some crazy stories where you're able to stop something from happening before it actually occurs, because I've heard stories of things where people like own their own title company and created their own title policies and made fake closings so they can get money
Yeah.
from the lender. And it turns out it was a total fraud, but you probably have personal experience, right?
Jennifer and I have a good story lately. Jennifer knows more. She was involved in it. It was just in one of my offices.
Recently we had a scammer buyer who
Wow.
was, and it actually, what this illustrates really is the importance of having a good escrow officer at the title company. I represented the seller. We were ready to close. My client had moved out and the buyer showed up at the closing. And we believe, after many days of figuring this out, we believe that he was trying to take funds from somebody else's account and transfer them to Fidelity Title. And what he was doing was sending way more money than he needed and was hoping that the title company would cut him a check back. And so I call it the Craigslist scheme, right? Or scam, where I'm selling patio furniture for $600 and someone hands me a check for $1,000 and says, can you give me the $400 plus your patio furniture? And that's basically what was happening here. And our escrow officer at Fidelity caught on very quickly that this was not a legitimate buyer, called me, asked me what we needed to do. We called Deanne. We had to get his counsel involved. We actually called the FBI. We were hoping that this buyer would actually transfer the funds. The FBI could not do anything because he hadn't committed fraud, because he hadn't actually gotten the funds from the one account to Fidelity's. But had we not been on alert and had we not been paying attention, it's very possible something really bad could have happened.
There's so many checks and balances that go into this. Beth, the whole underwriting process is all about
checks and
balances, making sure that your mortgage, the people that you're giving the mortgage to, actually have the money and funds to be able to do that. You must have some crazy stories too.
The rules are all written for the people who are trying to skirt the system.
Yeah.
So and sometimes borrowers will get frustrated that we're asking for the kind of documentation that we ask for, but it is to protect against things like Jennifer and Deanne were talking about.
Yeah. No, I think it's, you're trying to eliminate the fraud. And a lot of stuff that we saw in the 2006 to 2008 period, and that led to a lot of foreclosures. I mean, I don't
Anybody
see,
could get a loan.
Anybody can get a loan
Anybody
with a pulse.
can get a loan.
Even if they didn't have a pulse.
Yes. Yes.
And that's what led to a huge crisis with real estate, because the loans kept getting sold to the next one, to the next one. I don't see that that type of thing happening now. It's a totally different type of situation because there's so many more checks and balances. And, I know when you're working with my clients, you're looking at everything.
We look at everything. We look at big deposits. We look at income, assets. We look at everything. There are reports run in the background that the buyers don't even know about that look at everything to make sure if you're working for family, we know you're working for family. If you own the company that you didn't disclose that you own that company, we find it.
Yeah. No, because there's a lot of ways to be able to look at it now.
Yes.
That didn't exist prior.
Correct.
Yeah. And also, I'm sure that when the pandemic happened, we went to a lot of remote. So the possibility of fraud actually probably increased because you're not seeing the people as much. But I'm sure that there's been a lot of implementations that you've done and efficiencies that you've put into place, all three of you and myself, actually, in order to make it easier to do things remotely and it's still very secure, probably more secure. What do you think some of those things are that are going to stick now that it seems like things are?
A lot more has been automated. We we get some files that don't require an appraisal. Every appraisal that has been done in the last 5 or so years goes into a system that is analyzed by artificial intelligence. And they determine when we run a file through underwriting if we need an appraisal, if the value is substantiated. And about 20% of the files now don't even require a human to go out and view it.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So that's it saves the buyer some money by not having to go. And we typically see it in an area where homes are very similar or condos where unit 203 just closed and 201 is the same one. And then they can really determine if that value is there without having to have someone physically inspect it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And also, like you talked about AI, ChatGPT is the big rage right now, where
Right.
people are able to do anything with this. And now Google's going to release their product in a matter of just a couple of months, and the world is completely changing.
Yep.
How do you see this changing your attorney review letters, reviewing contracts, writing contracts? Is that something that you see happening with this software, Jennifer?
I really don't, because I think every deal is different. As Beth said, we're dealing with people
Yeah.
and their biggest investment, and every person is different, has different ideas, has different issues, has different risks that they're willing to take or not willing to take. So I don't see how artificial intelligence will impact my part of the business. Maybe some of these searches can happen quicker. Maybe there's less time between those searches. Maybe someone can give a first look on
Right.
some of these things. But from my perspective, I don't think you can replace a lawyer.
We've had over the years a lot of systems that will read tax returns that determine the risk on an appraisal. They rank them 1 to 5 on a value and all of that, but you still need that human element to review it. The computer still makes mistakes. They miss things on the tax returns, or they can't take into account, that house sold for a lot less money, but it backs up to a gas station. This one doesn't.
Right.
So those are the kind of things that you still need a human to look at and to explain. And
Yeah.
every house is different and every buyer is different.
And I see that as a realtor, where everybody's tried to kill the realtor business because they think we're an inefficiency.
That I have not heard.
No, not at all. No, just every day.
Just my business.
Yeah. But last night I was helping somebody just with getting a lease together and going through applications and everything, make sure the process is proper and all this kind of stuff. And they said to me, they're like, we see the value add. You could do this by yourself, but having the skill, experience, and knowledge really helps give the right guidance. Walking into a house and being able to point something out and say, this is going to be a problem before we step into an inspection, I think is something that is not going to be found on the website. So I think that what you're saying, AI will help with certain things and make things more efficient, like any other technology. And who knows, I could be completely wrong, but I think that it'll just help enhance what we do.
The thing about real estate is you got to visually see it.
Yeah.
And I don't think you get that online.
Not the same.
Period. You need boots on the ground.
Yeah. You need to be able to see it, touch it, smell it. I think that's important. There's been a lot of talk in the media about interest rates. They've gone up a little bit since last year. The market's changed a little bit. I have some statistics here, but I want to hear from you all what you've seen on your end of the business, and I'll give you a little bit of perspective on mine too. But Beth, in the mortgage business, you're where it all starts.
Well, 2023 has certainly started off on a positive note for mortgages, where in January we saw a 5-month low in interest rates. We really touched the 7% back in November, December. October, we were close, and we're back down into the 6s. They have gone up a little bit in the last few days, but overall, it appears that every key indicator is showing that inflation is easing a little bit, at least for now. Wages, rents, inflation, all of that has really made the bond market react positively and come down a little bit this year. So we hope that continues. I don't think we're out of the woods, but housing, mortgage application sales have certainly gone up since the first of the year. And may that continue into the spring market.
Oh, yeah. We're recording today. It's February 8th, 2023. And a couple of days ago, there was the jobs report that came out, and there was an incredible amount of hiring. It's a very strong job market. And Jerome Powell remarked at a dinner that he was at that they have to be aggressive. They have to continually be aggressive. And a few days before that, the Fed said that they were looking at just being a wait and see approach. Mm-hmm. So changed on a dime. Do you think that they're going to continue to raise rates based on those job reports? I mean, Do you have a crystal ball that you could look at?
No one's crystal ball is better than anyone else's. If you listen to the economist, you'll hear anyone saying predictions anywhere from 4.125% to 7% for this year. The key thing is buyers have to look at what it's going to cost them if they're comfortable with that monthly payment in their budget. And if rates change, then great, they refi. The beauty of Illinois is it's not very expensive to refi with great partners like Fidelity Title. And if they can afford the monthly payment today and it's a house that they like, they should go for it. And if it gets less expensive as the rates come down, we'll certainly be there to refinance.
Yeah. And I guess Deanne, what have you seen at the title company? Have you seen orders pick up lately?
They've been picking up, not like any of us would like them to, but they are. I'm seeing a slow, gradual incline on the orders there. I know you and I had talked about the other day, and I did pull the numbers from last year, January, and we're down about 15% in resales. Obviously, the order count is down a lot more than that because refis last year were better, a lot better, stronger than they are this year.
Right. So that's a big part of your business.
And yeah, seems to be. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jennifer, what's your typical, how many clients do you typically get a week or a month? And what have you seen lately?
So for me, the last 2.5 years have been my best years in the business of being in this business over 20, 25 years, depending on if you count my paralegal years.
Yeah.
And the last 2.5 years have been absolutely insane. I was averaging 17, 18 contracts in a week for the last 2.5 years. So if you add that up in terms of how many closings that I actually did, it's a lot. This month, I'm seeing more like pre-COVID numbers for me. I'm averaging about 8 new contracts in a week. I got 8 yesterday, or in a 24-hour period between Monday and Tuesday. And that was just, as my paralegal said, and it's only Tuesday. So I'm optimistic that there's a little bit of an uptick. I do think interest rates play a part. I do think the season plays a part.
Yeah.
We had a really nice weather this last weekend. I think the Super Bowl is coming up. People start thinking about their plans for the years from a financial standpoint. And generally speaking, February, March, April, we start seeing more deals coming in.
Yeah, no, I would say the same. What I've been telling people is that I think it's returning to a pre-COVID type of market where you have seasonality. Spring, it picks up like crazy. Then it ebbs off a little bit in the summer. You get another pickup in the fall. It's all tied to the school year here in Chicago because nobody wants to move in the middle of the winter.
And the weather.
And
that's so true.
And they don't want to take their kids out of school. And even if you don't have kids, it's all cyclical to that because if you're downsizing, you want to sell in the spring. So that way the people who might be in a small renting or in a condo and have kids, they want to go and move into a bigger house or whatever it may be. But it all kind of ties in with the school year cycle. From what I've seen, here's just from some information from MRED, which is the Midwest Real Estate Data Company, which is our multiple listing service in Northeast, a lot of Illinois, actually. And they had a 17% week over week increase and the second consecutive week of gains for listings closing. It's still, despite that, they say the 2022 mark from the same period last year bested this year's total by 42%. So a significant decrease from what it was back a year ago. There's not a ton of inventory, but I'll tell you, I've been involved in several multiple offer situations lately. I was going around showing houses to some clients in, I was in Park Ridge, I was in Skokie, and there were tons of people at these open houses, 20 to 30 groups of people coming through these open houses, the realtors told me, and it was just like, you had to just push your way through to get in. So there are definitely people who are interested in looking to buy right now. And I think the message that we need to get out there is to the people who own houses to get them on the market. And I think the key is for some people who've locked in interest rates that are under 3%, they may not want to go move and get something. But if interest rates continue to go down and people's life situations change, people don't always just sell because their interest rate is low. They sell because they need to go somewhere else in the country. They got a new job. They got a better job. They want a bigger house. They're downsizing, whatever it may be. So I think those are the normal types of things that you see in this type of market. And by the way, rates in the 5s and 6s are not super high. Are they, Beth?
These are still relatively low. So it's still a good rate. It's just hard when we have been in the 2s and the 3s or even the 4s in the last few years.
Yeah.
But it's still a good rate and people can afford it. And if the market does change, they can always refinance.
Yeah. And you primarily do mortgages here in the Chicagoland area, right?
Yes.
But you can do them anywhere in the country. And your company is called CrossCountry Mortgage.
Yes. The company is licensed in all states.
So do you see it similar to what's going on here in the Chicagoland market versus what else is going on in the country? Do you have a lot of familiarity with, let's say, what's going on in the Phoenix metro area or say some of these other places that really grew in the middle of the pandemic?
Yeah, there are certain markets that values are certainly coming down. There are others that are staying steady. The markets that really grew quickly during COVID, they're having some price reductions. What we're seeing, Chicago seems to be not a whole lot downward movement, but you could address that better.
No, I think that's the same thing that I see. I'm not seeing values dropping.
Yeah, it is, at least from appraisal standpoints, this is not a declining market.
And you're not having issues on appraisals that you're seeing.
Knock on wood. Nope.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you, Aaron, on the appraisal front, and I don't know if you feel this way, Beth, but what I've noticed is when the realtors are really good at their job, we don't have appraisal issues because they've done their research to start. So you're not showing buyers or telling us, and you're telling our buyers and sellers what a realistic price is and that it's going to appraise out. And I have less and less issues with the realtors that do their homework like you than the ones that don't.
Yeah.
When it doesn't appraise, it's really not a shock when you're working with an agent like Aaron because he knows this is a higher price and the buyer goes in knowing they may have overpaid a little bit, but they chose to do that.
And usually you give us a heads up that this could happen. Hey, I'm a little concerned about this. And again, that's why it's so important to have a good realtor that understands the business, that understands your area that you're looking in and does their research for you.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. But there definitely were times, especially in the middle of the pandemic, because there's so many people bidding on the same houses where you had a bid so high and just sacrifice your child in order to be able to win the bid. And you knew, okay, there might be an appraisal issue because prices were rising so fast that the appraisers didn't have any types of records to substantiate that price point until those things sold. Like I remember in 2020 going out with a client, we worked on together. And I think by the 5th one, we finally got her a house. The first place we bid on, it closed for, I'd say it was like a $385,000 closed sale. And the year before it would have closed for about $300,000.
It's crazy.
And it was a small little house in Skokie and it was fine, but it was just like, whoa, what is going on here? And it just kept happening and happening. So now I think things are leveling out. They're stabilizing. Sure. And it's like people are used to the new prices. But you look at some of these numbers when things were first closing, you're like, well, this doesn't make any sense. But now it does. Like the value of a residential property went up over the course of the pandemic because of work from home and all these other types of factors, I think personally are going to stick in certain ways. And things keep shifting. We're here in an office. You have a beautiful office here, Jennifer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But before, this was forward thinking to buy this office and build it out because people are thinking, oh, we're just going to work from home the rest of the time. What do I need an office for?
When we bought this property, it was during COVID. And we were trying to find an office that was easy for us to feel comfortable with COVID or another type of pandemic that could go on. And we needed a place to meet clients. And the title company offered that service to us a lot during COVID, but we needed a place to meet. And I will tell you that everybody uses our conference room a lot and people are in and out of this office a lot. There are only 5 of us that work in this office because it's a standalone building, but that was part of our...
And you have an outdoor space too, where you can meet with clients.
We do. We have an outdoor space that we use as a second conference room. Obviously not today. It's February, but in the summer and spring.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about the market, what's going on. We talked about what you all do. And this is really the other people that are part of the real estate team, I'd say. First of all, the client, the appraiser, inspection. We touched on that a little bit with attorney review, but these are some of the things that you need to think about when you're going into purchasing residential property here in the Chicagoland, and this is what your team is like, and having a good set of people involved here. But things are constantly changing. And I think I want to talk with you about, like, there's been a lot that's changed over COVID and whatnot, and digital transformation, AI. What do you foresee for the future for the rest of this year and whatnot? Deanne, what do you for your industry?
I know that
More people back in the title company for the closings and all that?
I don't think so.
No?
I think people have gotten comfortable, and if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like, it's working, doing a lot of stuff remotely where, like, for instance, Jennifer, she'll have her paralegal will drop off the docs ahead of time. We have them, which is actually, it is better because we're able to review them ahead of time and in case there's an issue or whatever it might be. So I don't foresee sellers' attorneys coming back. The ones that are there that want to come, fine, but I don't foresee them storming the place again. I foresee it staying the same way it is now with sending the stuff ahead of time. I know they're talking about Ron, the whole remote notary.
Yeah.
I don't foresee that. I just personally I'll be surprised if it finally goes full circle because you're always going to need a live mortgage, the wet document. So I'm not sure. I just don't foresee people coming back to the title company. I don't know what other changes.
What about blockchain? Do you think that's going to be implemented within title company work to be able to verify documentation, or is that more of a county issue rather than a title company issue?
I think it's more of a county issue. I'm not that familiar with it, so no.
Okay. Yeah. But buyers' attorneys coming to the closings now.
Sometimes.
Or no? Sometimes?
They're about a 50-50 these days too. What they'll do is ahead of time, or sometimes they won't tell us, and we have to scan them the whole package, and then they'll get on Zoom with their customer and they'll go over it document to document. A lot of times when the Beth is in the room or a loan officer, it makes it a little bit easy because I feel like they still want somebody there to hold their hand because it's a little harder. So, or a realtor for that matter. A realtor has been very helpful to them as well. So the buyer's attorney is 50-50 these days.
For a long period of time, I wasn't coming to closings with COVID. And I had a closing with a client. This was, I believe, January 2021. And I had to bring the keys to the closing because I never met the listing agent. And,
Sure.
And I show up to the title company. I had a mask on and everything. And she started, it wasn't your title company. And she started like yelling at me, why am I there? I'm like, I have the keys. Like, I'll leave. But it's such a weird feeling. So it was always like the most joyous part of the process. And your client is nervous. So it's like, you want to be able to be there to support. I always catch things that is maybe not caught by the attorneys or whatever. Or I'm able to answer questions. I know things about the neighborhood or whatever to help them through that and just make banter because you're waiting a lot for it to.
And you notice stuff that we wouldn't think of, like that they might need or whatever it might be. And I feel like the closer is the last person there, and you want them to have a positive experience. You want them to have a great experience. So having you there or Beth there and Jennifer there is very beneficial to us because it helps us a lot. Because you just want it to be, it's a great thing. They're spending lots of money, especially the first time home buyers. It's a great feeling, and it's great there to be there for them, to watch them and take it all in.
Absolutely. And Jennifer, I know that one of the changes that I think is going to stick is when we talk with clients for attorney review, we have a Zoom call. It used to be a conference call or whatever, and not all attorneys will involve the realtor, but I love that you bring me into it because I do have a lot of knowledge of what happened at the inspection, and it's a lot for the client to think about and remember, but for me, it's kind of second nature at this point. So I love that, and I think that's something we'll continue.
Most of my realtors do join in those calls, but not all of them do. But if they don't join in the call, then they give me their kind of feedback in advance or in a different format. But I do think the Zoom call has helped create a better connection with the client. I think one of the hardest things that COVID did is we were separated, and there's no replacement for seeing somebody in person. One of the things I think of at a closing, on the sales side, I didn't really spell this out, but on the sales side, we're able to sign everything in advance. So I meet with the client in advance, or someone in my office meets with the client in advance, and we have that face-to-face meeting. It's just not at the closing. So we're still making sure they understand what our value is and what we're doing for them. And then by the time we get to the closing, we've done everything we have. So it's just dotting I's and crossing T's. On the buy side, people are nervous. They're not sure. And I think that it's really important that they see the work that I'm doing while we're at the title company. So while on the sales side, I can do it in advance, the buys, it happens the minute I walk in the door. And so I found that doing the closings via Zoom was much harder because the clients weren't seeing all that I was doing for them. And this way I can explain it to them. I'm pointing, I'm sitting next to them. They have a comfort level because we've had the Zoom call to start, and they've worked with me and had many phone calls or Zoom calls by the time they get to the closing. So I feel that it's a full service piece of this. I know a lot of my colleagues are doing it online, and I think that's fine. I think they're still doing their job. I just think that it helps make a first-time home buyer feel a little bit more comfortable when you're in the room with them.
Oh, absolutely. And Beth, you have a great team that works with you too, that helps you get things done so quickly if you need it. It's I said before in this conversation, you've saved so many deals where there was another lender that was supposed to work on it, and it was just a giant mess, and you come in and it's boom, done.
I have a great team.
You do. And then I'm sure, how have you implemented some of the things that you've done over the past few years that is going to help your clients?
It's really the team that we do our best to look at everything as soon as we get it. So if there are questions, then we can address them quickly as opposed to 3 weeks from after we get the documents, and just keep our clients informed on what's going on and what to expect next, and be there for them and push it along through the system. Because the buyers don't really see what happens, there are many people that have to touch a file before it gets to closing, and many different departments and checks and balances, as you addressed before. And we try to do that all behind the scenes, so it's a seamless experience for our clients.
Yeah, you do a great job. All of you do a great job. I want to leave everyone with final thoughts and also your contact information. So if people want to get a hold of you, certainly you could reach out to me. And if you're working with me, you're probably going to meet everyone here. And I'll also have it in the show notes. But if you want to add like how to get a hold of you. So Beth.
My phone number is 847-274-9745.
Also have a website where people can apply, and I'll put that in the show notes as well.
This is Deanne, 847-894-9979.
And I would direct you to our website, which is hgslegal.com, and obviously by phone as well, 773-315-3039. I do think email is a really wonderful way to first reach out, and you can get a feel for what my law firm does by looking at our website. Yeah. Thank you, Aaron.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you everyone for listening. And if you need more detail, you're welcome. And if you want more detailed information about whatever you're looking at, you can always contact me, aaronm@dreamtown.com. But thank you all for listening, and have a good one. Thanks for listening today. To learn more, go to therealestatediplomat.com and subscribe on your favorite podcast app.